Hello, everyone. Sorry to interrupt the dialogue. My name is Michele Floriani. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Sequoia Consulting Group. So great to see all these faces in the room today. I see some old friends and some new friends. So when we were thinking about topics that would be extremely relevant for this period right now, obviously this part of the world has a lot of businesses which are benefiting from either aggressive investor strategies or just good old-fashioned market growth and aggressive business models. And scaling intelligently, dealing with some of the trade-offs of scalability is a big topic that everyone faces, and particularly departments like HR and finance and the technology teams behind them have to make a lot of decisions. So it seemed like a very obvious topic to pull people together with. And who better to bring into that circle than our friends at Workday. So I want to thank all of you for being a big part of this as well. And I'll introduce Dave in a second, who's a CTO from Workday. It's a topic you could hardly address successfully in a little over an hour, but we're going to try to unpack some of those topics and get into them. So anyway, please welcome our panelists and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Well, I think I'll start down at the end with Randy. A question for you about scaling, because I think that'll be a lot of the conversation. And I do have to say, I have a personal interest in this too. Workday, we're scaling really quickly, and so I'm very curious to the answers to some of these questions. What indicators do you look at to inform the risks that you might have around scaling, the policies, the changes to tools, and when do you decide when it's time to make a bigger investment in scaling your business?
Sure. So, sometimes we represent a lot of areas within the company here today, but I think sometimes when you wait to see too much pain, it's almost too late. Almost all these areas here today have long lead times, and it's hard to look for indicators. I think one of the best investments that growing companies can make are, in financial planning, understanding what the forecast is. Because if you wait to see the symptoms, it's almost, you're certainly behind the ball in trying to catch up. So spending a lot of time understanding the growth of the business, what you see coming down, not just in the next quarter or two, but in the next year, allows you to prepare. It allows you to get the systems and process and people in place to handle that growth later on. And without that visibility, it's really hard to react without having living crisis to crisis.
Yeah, so trying to get ahead of that ball early and making sure it doesn't turn into a crisis.
Absolutely, investing the time. Again, may take 6 months. It may take a year to get certain meaningful changes in place, a new system, a new process in which you're interacting with customers. And unless you know where you want to be and where you're going, it's very difficult to manage on the fly. You can throw a lot of temps at something. You can throw a lot of employees at something. But when you're growing really fast, that can only get you so far. Yeah. So you really have to be thinking farther ahead than a week or two. There are quarters, sometimes a year or more in advance.
Yeah, that's great. So that's great from the CFO, Chief Operating Officer sort of perspective. Joan, how about from HR?
So I think the biggest challenges I see from a people perspective when you're growing very rapidly is as you're adding more bodies and you're adding more people, is to stay ahead of the management issues around adding those kinds of folks. Because too often, I think we're not paying attention to spans of control. So what we have found most recently at Marketo is as we look ahead and say, what are the headcount plans and the growth, we want to make sure, are we adding the management talent to be able to sort of manage those folks. The other challenge I think we have, and I'm sure everybody in this room has this, is that a lot of our managers who we are promoting into roles, which I completely support, I mean, I was a first-time manager at one point in my career, really are doing it without any skills. Mm-hmm. And so what we have found is that we really, really have to invest in training and developing and growing our management talents. And the advice I would give to anybody who's growing fast is just make sure you're ahead of the management curve and you're not just throwing bodies at things without making sure that they've got the right structure and the right coaching and support and person above them to help them, be successful.
That's a great point too, and it's certainly something we feel at Workday is we've got this mix of new folks that may be new into management and then ones that have a lot of experience but may not have experience managing a growing team. They may have experience with a big team or a small team, but not in between. So that training aspect, I can see how that would be really critical as well. So Kamud, from the tools and technology side, what are some of the things that impact you for growth and the things that you need to look out ahead the road for?
Sure. So everything that Randy and Joan talked about, from either from a financial perspective or from an HR perspective, the tools and the technology team comes in to support that, to build that, to meet the needs and the requirements of the businesses, whether it's a finance function or an HR function or an operations function, so on and so forth. So we feel that tools and technologies enable the business process itself, enable the organization. It's not the other way around. And when we look out in a hyper-growth organization, whether it's a hyper-growth organization or it's an organization that's been around for years, we feel that not only tools and technologies enable that business process and the organization itself, that it has to meet the needs of the growing concern out there as well. And what I mean by that is today's employees, and I'm sure the panelists are pretty aware of this, is our employees are expecting the same thing from tools and technologies that they would expect from consumer applications. I'm just going to do a quick poll internally. How many in the audience today use a navigation app called Waze? There we go. That's, so Waze not only learns about you, about your routes, that your favorite routes, but it's also predictive in nature. And I'm not doing a promotion for Waze or Google, but that's the application that our employees are looking for, whether it's from a finance perspective or from an HR point of view, in the sense that help me not only collect all that data, bring it in, but also help me predict what my next role might be in the company. I've gathered all these skills. Now, what can I be set up to do in the future, and what's my road to that? And I think tools and technologies are basically enabling to that end.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, we certainly have a similar view at Workday as well, building out tool sets that help enable that.